fire cracked softly under the night sky. A small family sat close together, their eyes wide and alert. The forest was dark, filled with the distant cries of animals. But tonight, the danger was not from beasts. It was from something far more terrifying other humans, in the shadows beyond the firelight. Unseen figures moved with silence. They watched. They waited. These were hunters not chasing deer or wild pigs. They were hunting people. The father gripped a stone spear, his hand shaking. He had heard the stories whole families taken in the night, their fires left burning with no one to tend them. The children pressed against their mother, their small faces pale with fear. Every snap of a branch made their hearts pound harder. Why would humans hunt each other? Hunger drove some, territory drove others. And sometimes it was only fear, the fear that if they did not kill, they would be killed. Tonight the family knew they were prey. The predators were out there, circling, patient like wolves, but far more dangerous. Because unlike wolves, humans hunted with thought, with plans, with cruelty. And as the fire burned lower, the family prayed the night would pass before the shadows closed in. The cave was cold and silent, its walls damp with the breath of ages. A group of explorers stepped inside, their torches glowing against the stone. At first they thought they had found the remains of animals, but as they looked closer, their blood chilled. The bones were human. Long cuts marked the ribs and skulls, sharp and deliberate. These were not the marks of wild beasts. They were the work of stone blades. The truth was clear and terrifying. Long ago, humans had feasted on humans. Why would they do such a thing? Hunger, perhaps. When winter came and the animals fled, tribes faced the choice between starving or turning on their own. But some marks told a darker story. The careful breaking of bones to drink marrow, skulls split open like trophies. This was not only survival, it was ritual. In the firelight of that cave thousands of years ago, screams must have echoed as flesh was taken and eaten. To one tribe, it was food. To another, it was power. The explorers shivered as they wrote their notes. The cave was no simple grave. It was a hunting ground, a kitchen, and a warning. Humans had not only fought animals for survival, they had turned their hunger on each other. The forest was quiet, too quiet. A young hunter crouched low, his stone-tipped spear ready. He had been tracking footsteps through the dirt, expecting to find a deer or wild pig. But as he looked closer, his heart raced. The prints were human. Someone was following him. He froze, listening. A branch cracked behind him. His skin prickled. He was no longer the hunter, he was the prey. Long ago, tribes fought not only against the wild, but against each other. Rival hunters would stalk through the woods, silent and patient. They waited for their enemy to make a mistake, to lower their guard. One quick strike, and the battle was over. Sometimes it was not about food. It was about territory, power, or revenge. A single man taken down meant fewer hunters to protect the rival tribe. The forest became a battlefield where the rules of survival twisted. The young hunter gripped his spear tighter. He knew the shadow behind him thought the same way he did. Hide, strike, survive. The first to move would live. The second would fall. The forest, once a place of animals and prey, had become a place where humans stalked humans. And no one was safe. The crowd gathered in the clearing, their faces lit by the red glow of fire. A man knelt in the dirt, his hands bound, his head bowed. Above him stood the tribe's leader, holding a stone axe high. The air was heavy with silence. This was not a hunt for food. It was a hunt for power. In the earliest tribes, leaders learned a cruel truth. Fear controlled people better than kindness. By taking life in front of the tribe, a leader showed strength. By offering blood to the spirits, he claimed the favor of gods. The man on the ground was not killed for hunger. He was killed to remind the tribe who ruled, who held power, and who must be obeyed. The ritual was both punishment and warning. Stone tools flashed, chants rose, and the soil darkened with blood. Children were forced to watch so they would never forget. Violence became a language spoken not with words, but with sacrifice. What began as survival slowly turned into ceremony. Killing was no longer only about food. It was about control. It was about faith. It was about fear. That night, the people did not just see a man die. They saw power made into flesh. Two men walked side by side through the forest, their spears balanced on their shoulders. They were hunters, friends since childhood, trusted by their tribe. Together they shared food, fought beasts, and watched each other's backs. But tonight, only one planned to return. In the struggle for survival, betrayal was as deadly as any predator. Food was scarce, and power was tempting. A single strike could remove a rival and open the path to leadership. Poor simply mean more meat for one instead of two. The taller man glanced at his companion, his grip tightening around his weapon. His face showed calm, but his mind burned with a plan. The other man sensed something was wrong. He slowed his step, his eyes flicking to the shadows, to the spear in his friend's hands. Among early humans, betrayal was not rare. Brothers turned on brothers. Friends vanished into the dark. Trust was a fragile rope, easy to cut. The fear of betrayal shaped tribes as much as hunger or war. The forest grew silent, the air heavy. Both men knew the truth tonight was no simple hunt. Tonight, survival meant choosing between loyalty and death. And when the strike came, it was quick, sharp, and merciless. The jungle was thick with mist, its sounds alive with birds and insects. Explorers pushed through the vines, believing they were the first outsiders to step here. But as they entered a hidden village, what they saw froze their blood. Around a fire, a group of tribesmen stood over a body. The smell of roasted flesh filled the air. Bones cracked under stone tools. The ritual was ancient, and yet it lived on. For thousands of years, whispers of cannibal tribes spread across the world. From the islands of the Pacific to the mountains of South America, stories told of people who ate their enemies. Some did it for survival when famine struck. Others did it for power, believing that by eating the flesh of the fallen, they gained strength or captured the spirit of their foe. The explorers watched in silence, horrified. The scene before them was not just history, it was living. Proof that the oldest human hunger had not disappeared, even in modern times. Desperate armies trapped in sieges and sailors lost at sea had turned to the same dark act. The question echoed through the jungle. Had humanity ever truly escaped its past? Or was the predator still inside us, waiting for hunger to awaken it again? The sun rose over the first city's walls of stone rising where forests once stood. Tribes became villages. Villages grew into kingdoms. But beneath the new order, the old instinct remained. Humans still hunted humans only now. They called it war. Armies marched under banners. But their purpose was the same as the hunters in the dark forest long ago: to take land, to take food, to take power. The spear became a sword. The stone axe became bronze. And later, iron. But the fear was unchanged. Leaders learned that controlling violence built empires. Laws were written, punishments declared, sacrifices demanded. Death became part of politics and religion. Cities shone with wealth, but their foundations were built on blood in every corner of the world. Humans perfected new ways to hunt their own kind. They no longer stalked through caves and jungles. They marched in lines, clashed on fields, and burned villages to ash. The predator had not vanished. It had evolved, and now, as civilizations rose higher, their wars grew greater. From fire to gunpowder, from blades to machines, the question remained: had humans truly become civilized, or had they only learned to mask the hunt with grander names? The story of human progress was also the story of human prey.